Hello, and welcome back to the Weekend Spread. And folks, it is a big day because it is week 1. We are past the week 0 blues and into proper football. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, my colleagues picking every single week this college football season. We've got Jameson Maxwell, Ty Lee, and the captain, Bowden Blake. And boys, I'm so excited to talk about football. I'm so excited to get into it. But we have a little bit of podcast business to discuss before we get this thing going. The Schooner Pod, which also covers the Weekend Spread, have agreed to join the Sellout Crowd Content Network, which is just truly exciting. For those of you who don't know, Sellout Crowd is a new startup, new setup, new media, and it has been taking Oklahoma by storm. They have gotten some of the best, biggest names in the state together, and somehow they have decided that they want to have us on board. So I guess that means we made it, boys. Truly exciting stuff. Nothing about the show that you've been watching will change. You'll just, it'll be the Schooner Pod, but like a little bit more, a little bit plus, a little bit more stuff. So
we're not making a Patreon if that's what you guys are thinking. It's not that.
Exactly. No paywall. You won't have to pay anything for the Schooner Pod, which is always great. This will always be free for y'all. But super exciting stuff. Just genuinely cannot be more thrilled with the direction the podcast is heading in. And that launches September 1st. So make sure to go to selloutcrowd.com. I believe it's selloutcrowd.com. I really should have written that down. Selloutcrowd.com. Get ready for that. September 1st is our launch date. So this Friday. And it's just going to be awesome. So that is where you want to go for the best in Oklahoma sports coverage. So selloutcrowd.com. Anyways, boys, before we get into the week, and nobody wants to, I'm sure people don't care about people probably don't care about our move that much, but I want to kind of talk with y'all and ask y'all, how are y'all feeling about everything?
I'm just laughing because I thought you were going to talk about our records last week, which I guess I'm not ready to talk about. We can push those to the back burner for a little bit longer, but it's honestly, this move with Sellout I'm so blessed to be a part of it, and we put in so much hard work into everything. And for all of the listeners have been loyal and supporting, we really appreciate y'all. We've been seeing a big jump in our viewers from year to year, and we're really hoping that we'll take another big jump this year too.
Ty?
Yeah, we joined Sellout Crowd. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't hear. You're telling me for the first time just now.
Read your text. Read your text messages, Ty.
I was trying to do it. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm very excited. I was trying to do a segment.
It didn't.
The lines are blurred between reality and bits with Ty. You never know. You never know on this show what's a bit and what's not.
Had I done it in a voice, he would have. Wow, I didn't know that. You telling me for the first time.
I'm picking up on. I'm picking up on it.
Let's get to the picks.
Blake, I wanted to ask Blake how, even though he's not like a full-time Schooner Pod member, how you feeling?
No, it's great. I'm glad that y'all sold out. I know the platform y'all build on the Schooner Pod side. Excellent stuff from recruiting, game previews, game reviews, something I tune into sometimes, especially last season when y'all were doing bad. Those were some very entertaining episodes, but yeah, this agreement definitely was definitely the ink hit the page before they saw our records from last week, because I bet if they could have a do-over, they would not be wanting us to continue this podcast with the advice and the quote financial advice they gave out last week. So yeah, that part was not good.
Okay,
Blake needs a PSA. He needs a PSA. Give Blake a talking head right now. Give him the large talking head, and he has to explain himself for 0-7 week last week. I understand I was 1-6, but that offer is completely different with a guaranteed lock of the year that didn't hit.
Right. It was bad. So our week 0 standings, me and Ty both went 2-5, which is bad by any standards. Jameson went 1-6, and Bowden Blake.
I had a winning record at one point this year. I'm just saying it. But then I went.
You got Notre Dame, and that was it. I was the only one with a wild island boy on Jacksonville State, but most of my zigging and zagging turned out to be all for naught. Ty had a good record as well, picking good ones. But Blake, I'm giving you the solo layout. Please explain yourself.
Yeah, so 0-7, first off. 0-7 is difficult to do. I dare you each and every week to try to go 0-7 because it's nearly impossible. It's just as hard as going 7-0. So honestly, everybody's laughing, going at me about my record. It's hard to do. You can't do what I just did. I did something that probably has never happened in Schooner Pod history. So 0-7, just as hard as 7-0. But look, it's deceptive too. Ohio was gonna destroy them. They had SDCU on the ropes from the beginning. The Maple Missile was ripping them apart. That game was over. That game was over till they did the dirty hits. They were going after his knees. I knew I should have known that. That's where I should have downgraded that lock a little bit because I knew San Diego City would have pulled some dirty little trick to win the game like they always do. So that one should have been a win. UTEP should have easily been a win. UTEP was destroying them in every box score, every single category, and some of the dumbest play calling down the stretch on 3rd and 1 when you are running the ball down their throats and you are throwing a fade, a back shoulder fade, 30-yard fade to the end zone. And it's just not even close. The wide receiver doesn't take the good route, and you do the same on 4th and 1 and try to pass it. Makes absolutely no sense. And then let's cap it off with a little La Tech, little FIU.
That was gross.
La Tech, what the hell were you doing? You were destroying them every facet of the game. FIU's quarterback had 5 completed passes for 4 yards. And they're not a service academy. They are not. Navy was taking more shots than what this FIU team was doing. And you still took to the final minute of the game to take a lead in that one. What in the actual heck are you doing out there, La Tech? If I was going to choose those games over again, I would make no changes. Maybe the Navy one. I should have listened to Ty. That was just a bummy pick from the beginning. It was so evident whenever just Notre Dame was running it down their throat. And I'm like, if they can even get the passing game going, which they did, Navy couldn't stop them. So, and then Navy started to do their passing thing to try to get back. It was bad. I thought like Navy would at least stay the course and get some points there at the end, but nope. Wouldn't change a thing. Had some bad luck, but also remember 7-0 and 0-7 are practically the same thing.
Okay. That's quite the spin zone right there. I respect it.
I dare you to go 0-10 next week, Bobby. Do it. If it's so easy, do it.
Okay, fine. I mean, I guess that logic checks out. I don't know, but anyways, let's move past week 0. I think we all do. We all want to move past week 0. So let's get on to it. Of course, as you know, entertainment value, blah blah blah. Don't actually take these picks because, as you can see by these records, yeah,
stop
not
saying
great.
that. No, this is a betting podcast. Y'all listen to us for betting advice.
I mean, I don't want someone to show up outside of Boat and Blake's door and be like, "I lost all my money."
Do we
Here's
know?
the thing,
They would.
right?
They would join me.
You
They
gotta
would
do-
be.
You'd convince them.
What you gotta do.
Yes.
Ty.
What is the JFK quote about if you need to climb over? I think it's maybe a JF. I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, but there's a quote about how if you want to get over a fence, you throw your best hat over the fence or something like that. What we've done for the viewers is we've intentionally performed terribly week 0 because we want you to take our advice. But if week 0 we just break even, then you've broken even, right? We've put you in the hole week 0. We've done that on purpose to give you the motivation to stick with it. That's what we've done, right? You gotta start. Yeah, we're gonna help you start from adversity, and it's gonna mean even more when we get positive. Potentially, this is not financial advice. Legally, we cannot say that this is financial advice. I will not be on the record saying that this is financial advice.
There's no proof that it's not financial advice, though.
No, there is in us explicitly stating that it's not.
Just that diamond mine, it's right there, Blake. If you just need one more little pickaxe
keep
of it.
digging.
Just keep digging.
The diamonds are always there.
Like
right.
there are 10 games. You can get way over 500. You can be 3 games over 500 if you go 10-0. There you go.
I'm sitting pretty. If you would have told me I didn't win a single game and I'm only back 2 games, that's like unprecedented. Usually somebody's going 4-3, 5-2. So I'll take it.
Sitting pretty. Okay. I love it. All right. Let's get into our first game of the weekend. And we are starting with first big game for sure. It is the Florida Gators 6-7 in 2022, 7-6 against the spread, going to Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Utes, defending Pac-12 champ. They were 10-4 last season, 8-6 against the spread. Now this line has been a bit funky. When it first opened up over the offseason, the Utes were favored by 9. That has slid all the way down to 4.5 because we don't know what's gonna go. We don't know what's gonna happen with Cam Rising. Tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl, and we're getting some weird reports that he might not be back. Now this one, 7 p.m. Central Time on Thursday on ESPN. So exciting stuff. We're starting with a really, really good one. Cleanse us of that just kind of garbage week 0 slate. So I'll go ahead and kick us off here. And look, this has been tempting. The Gators have been tempting to me, and I'm not trying to do the play both sides thing because I've been on Utah the entire offseason, but getting a little worried about Cam Rising, getting a little bit worried about Utah. They always get off to a slow start to start seasons, I feel like. But at the same time, I saw what I saw with that Florida team last year. They were not good, even though they did beat this Utah team in Gainesville last season. I feel like the altitude will kind of throw them for a loop, if we're going to be honest. I know this is typical me playing up the conditions a little too much, but Florida has not played a non-conference game outside of the state of Florida since 1991. Road non-conference. They played a neutral site game against Michigan. So this is a totally different thing for them. Should be super weird. I think the Utes, regardless of Cam Rising status, will be enough to get the win and get the cover. So give me Utah minus 4.5 here. Ty, I'll let you kick this one off next. Who do you like in the game?
Here, let's talk about what is and isn't financial advice. If you wanted some financial advice to get ahead of rampant inflation, what you should have done is listen to me last season when I was telling everyone, oh, the Anthony Richardson stock is high. And I was telling everyone, short it right now, short it. It's a bubble. Do not invest in Anthony Richardson. Blake, on the other hand, he was very high on Anthony Richardson. We all see how that has now turned out in the NFL. If you didn't see that, turned out poorly in the NFL. He's arguably the Dylan Gabriel of the NFL if Dak Prescott didn't exist. With all that being said, I think Florida may be a little bit better than they were last year, but I like Utah in this one, with or without their quarterback. I like a more fundamental team. I feel like I know what I'm going to get more from Utah. I think they're the safer bet, especially with this line crunching down.
Jameson?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. Why? So hold on, Ty. You what'd you pick again?
I picked the Utes.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm gonna go Florida here, and it's not because of Graham Mertz, because I see Jimmy talking in the chat. Man, I've really wanted to believe him at Wisconsin this whole time. But it's just my thing of having this kind of last second change, and Cam Rising's ACL return that makes them think, oh, we're going to have to put in the backup quarterback. That's just really hard for me to get a grasp on. This is not some kind of acute change, I would think, that, Cam Rising is not going to be playing. So the backup's kind of known for a while, probably, that he's going to come play. And I feel like that could be a positive, but at the same time, it's just like the times that we saw with Utah without Rising, it was like a night and day kind of thing. Like Utah was a really, really special team with Rising. But I just can't buy into it. I just think it's going to be too close of a game where I'm just going to take the 4.5 points.
Blake?
Yep, I'm hopping on with Jameson. I would have been a little bit I would have been all in on Utah if Cam Rising was playing, but the news with him being doubtful, and we kind of previewed this on our Pac-12 preview earlier this year, was Cam Rising, even if he was going to play at the beginning of the season, he was probably going to be a little hobbled, which concerns me a little bit just because Cam Rising, although he's not like a super dynamic runner, he definitely relies on mobility in the pocket. He definitely relies on, like, he could tuck the ball and run. Like, he relies on some of his physical gifts in order to, like, for Utah to succeed. Without him, and then a guy people are not talking about, Brent Keithy, that might not be playing too. Like, Dalton Kincaid last year stole the show because of what he did in that final game, but Keithy was going into the season last year the top tight end on that squad. Like, he's a legitimate force himself. He's doubtful to play. And just on top of it all, Kyle Whittingham has never been good, I feel like, in September, is getting his teams, like, off the starter's gate. Like, they finish strong. They're able to find, like, postseason success because of how they finish. It's never really how it starts. They always lose random games. They lost to Florida last year, to a inferior team, lost to SDCU the year before. Like, they're constantly just running into roadblocks at the start of the season. That just doesn't bode well for me. And it's just like, the line has fallen. The two things that do concern me, though, taking Florida, the line's fallen. I think it's probably over adjusted in not a good way. And then to the fact, like Jameson said, Utah probably has known all summer that Cam Rising won't be playing, so they've been prepping for this game knowing that, and so that gives them a little bit of an advantage instead of it being like a week 5, week 6 type game when Cam Rising doesn't play. But I think Graham Mertz is good enough. I think SEC talent is solid enough just to keep them at least close in this game. But I think Florida surprises people this year, so it could be Florida.
Okay, I like it. And by the way, I caught you saying the SDCU, little San Diego State barb there, So I'm familiar with your game. I see what you did there. We don't need to dive into the Malort yet, but you did indeed.
It's bad. It's not bad, like, as in this week their opponent sucks, and that part is not good. I've already prepared for that. Probably, maybe, depending on what my schedule looks like Saturday night, either Saturday night or maybe on the show. Who knows? We could do a live one. But yeah, I'm fine. I'm feeling good about you. I'm feeling good about the next week after that versus UCLA. So
fair enough. And keep in mind, we do have a double. We already have an existing Malort
double
for UCLA.
Yep.
So it's a double Malort day. Then I might be able to. Hopefully, I don't have to do it. Hopefully, hopefully you're my power. Yeah.
Yep.
We need to track them. We need to
track them. I've been putting too many out there. I've been feeling too confident about things lately. I might have to throw out another one soon. It's a nice high. It really sucks, though. It really sucks when you lose. I will say that, Bobby. So you'll have that to look forward to in a week.
I think that's fair. One of these days, we need to leak the Malort video because it's iconic. But anyways, moving on to our next
Tunsil leak.
The Laramie Tunsil leak. We won't do that. That would get Blake rattled, I feel like. So we'll keep that in our pocket. So up next, we have the South Carolina Gamecocks, 8-5 last season, pretty resurgent, 7-6 against the spread. They're facing off against North Carolina, ranked 21st in the country, who went 9-5 under Mac Brown, 6-7-1 against the spread. The Tar Heels favored by 2.5. This one, 2:30 Central Time, Saturday night on ABC. This is the college game day game. So pretty massive tilt here in Charlotte. Blake, I feel like this is an interesting matchup for sure. It's not exactly a rivalry, but it's definitely regional. A lot of expectations, I feel like, kind of on both sides here. Who do you think comes out with the big win and cover here?
I hate trying to choose this game. It's two teams that I think are vastly overrated in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of have to choose against bad and bad, but I'm taking South Carolina. Covered it a little bit on the ACC preview. UNC will never be able to blow out a team this year because they don't play defense. Like last year, inferior opponents consistently were staying in games with them, and they lost a lot down the stretch just because they can't stop a nosebleed. And now against a somewhat competent team in South Carolina, they're expected to put them away. I have zero confidence there. They lost a lot to the transfer portal when it came to corners. They didn't really add anybody. Sure, Drake May's back, good wide receiver room. Their offense is going to be clicking, but if the game's always going to be close and down to the wire, there's no way I'm taking the points with UNC at all this season. South Carolina, on the other hand, very overrated. Very, very. I think they're going to be bottom. I was going to say bottom of the East, but we saw Vanderbilt last week against Hawaii. I think they kind of cemented themselves at the bottom. But I think this team is so overrated. Started off bad, and then Spencer Rattler kind of came into form finally and did some things. But I just think like South Carolina, maybe just a little bit more well-rounded, although their offense isn't as good. They still have a competent quarterback. They have a decent defense, probably one of the better ones UNC faces. So I'm just going to take the points just because I know UNC is not going to blow this team out.
Yeah, I'm going to go with South Carolina as well. Here's the thing. You said like UNC has a competent wide receiver room. Like they're bringing like 2 transfers essentially right now to try to like connect with Drake May. Just their competent wide receiver room. Losing Josh Downs, like it seems like, Drake May's, I almost said Sam May. Shout out Sam May of the sellout. But Drake May, he seems like he continues to lose his wide receiver friends. And I think that's going to be tough for him. I really do. And just UNC's defense is so anemic that I think South Carolina can get up early here if they get a couple stops and kind of take the crowd out of things in this rivalry game. I'm going to go South Carolina.
Yeah, I am going to have to go chalk with Blake and Jamison. I was going to go with South Carolina before I heard their explanations. Actually, I kind of expected Jamison to go with UNC. I'm not necessarily sure why, but yeah, I like Rattler in this one. I like what Blake was saying about a more complete team, and I just feel like South Carolina, I don't want to say they're overrated. Like South Carolina I think is overrated, but North Carolina, like I like the Tar Heels. I think they're a fun little chippy team. I love the whole, Mac Brown, retirement, but still having a job kind of thing. But I just don't. I think they're going to take a step back this year, and I think this first game, it's going to mean a lot to South Carolina. Rivalry game, week 1. I like the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I'm good. We're going to complete the sweep here because I really like the Gamecocks on this one. I think that SEC physicality is something that UNC struggled with against Clemson last year in this exact same stadium in the ACC championship. Obviously, Clemson a different level, but South Carolina, that is pretty solid.
That doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean? I was
UNC
saying,
struggled against Clemson because SEC physicality?
Because they have a similar level of physicality to an SEC team.
They are.
Clemson is the closest thing you can get to an SEC team because, like, outside of the SEC, they are built exactly the same way, in my opinion. And what I'm saying is that because they struggled with that type of play style pretty badly last year, and I think they're a worse team this year. Not enough people are really looking into the loss of their talent, the loss of Phil Longo to Wisconsin, who was quite a pretty solid offensive mastermind. This year they're bringing in UCF's OC, I believe, who previously was the head coach at Troy. I just think that's too much to install before a massive matchup like this. I think South Carolina has the consistency at this point. I think they have a great coach in Shane Beamer, and I think they're going to get over the line on this one. Because frankly, everyone sees Drake May, sees UNC. Oh, it's the Drake May team. I bet they're going to be great. 2.5, that's easy. One guy can't do all of that. So give me Carolina here.
Yeah, I think Drake May has a kind of floppy season. Everyone's pegging him. He could have been the first pick in the draft over the past couple of years and everything. Obviously, that still might have been true with like kind of how draft talent has been, but I don't think he has as good of a season as everyone's going to peg him out to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on to our next game. This is absolutely just a massive, massive ball game for you on Sunday. It is the 5th-ranked LSU Tigers, 10-4 last year in Brian Kelly's first season. 8-6 against the spread. This one, they're traveling to Orlando in a neutral site game. I think it'll be pretty neutral, honestly, to take on the Florida State Seminoles, ranked number 8th in the country after a pretty solid rivalry job done by Mike Norvell. The Noles are 10-3, or were 10-3 last year, 8-5 against the spread, coming off of a Cheez-It Bowl victory against the our Oklahoma Sooners. The line set at LSU -2.5. This one can be found 6:30 Central on Sunday on ABC. So massive, massive, massive game. And look, this is why you love the weekend spread, because you have to pick the tough ones. This is as tough as it gets to me. I do not know who's going to come out on top on this one. Last year's game was decided at the very, very end by the thinnest of margins in a very, very sloppy game one. If anything, to me, this is a brutal toss-up. I love both quarterbacks. I think both head coaches have these programs going in the right direction, and I am so excited to watch it. But I am not excited to pick this. I'm rolling with Florida State plus 2.5 here. I really like what Jordan Travis has going on, there with that Florida State offense. I feel like they have the type of talent across the board, NFL draft level potential across the board at Florida State, where I think they can hang with LSU. I think they can compete with LSU. I kind of think people are a little too high on the Tigers this season. Just overall, I see them as like a tier below like college football playoff. I don't think they're quite, I don't see them winning the SEC West this year. I think Alabama bounces back. Overall, I think Florida State's going to come out and have a really good performance. So give me the Noles plus 2.5 here. Ty?
Yeah, I think both of these teams take a step forward this year. I think Florida State definitely has. Everyone loves making these comparisons on the Schooner Pod. I think Florida State has a higher potential ceiling. I think this team is on its way to do great things. I don't know if this year is the year. I'm taking the Tigers. I like what LSU is bringing to the stage. I just think on a long enough timeline, if you just keep picking college football, it's never wise to pick against LSU. Give me the Tigers in this one. I'm a known hater of the state of Louisiana, right? We don't need to get into that. It's self-explanatory if you've ever been to the state of Louisiana, but I like the Tigers.
Yeah, here's the thing. Can I just go on like a little soapbox and see how stupid this Mason Smith suspension is right now?
That's like the entire point of having a podcast, Jameson.
Yeah, it's just so stupid. Like they're legitimately suspending him for this one game that is such a huge, huge game for LSU, playing a top 10 matchup over a autograph signing before the 2021 NIL deal. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, did they just watch the Johnny Manziel documentary and think that everyone doing like autograph deals are just like slumlords and they're just making millions of dollars? I don't know, obviously, all the fine, intricate details, but that just sucks because LSU has such a fun team this year. And I was really looking forward to seeing Mason Smith go out there, play with, next to Harold Perkins, who I think is one of the best defensive prospects that we have in college football. He's so fun. The way he rushed the passer last year just makes me like to see future Pro Bowl in max contracts in the NFL. And he's only a sophomore. Like, I'm going to have my eye on him all game. And just they have a lot of players on the defense and then an experienced quarterback also in Jane Daniels. Like, I really, really like this LSU team. And I understand Florida State has a lot of these same things with like Jared Verse and Jordan Travis and, in Blake's boy, Keon Coleman as well, coming in at transfer wide receiver. I understand. And that's what makes it hard, right, Bobby? But the thing is, I just like LSU better. And I just kind of had this dead set that they're going to be motivated. Kelly's going to get in the locker room, speak in some Cajun accent and try to avenge their loss last year, which was the most embarrassing thing. You can't lose like that extra point last year and not come out and get the W this year. I think they cover.
Going Florida State. I'm all in on Florida State this year. I think they're probably my fourth team to make it into the college football playoff. I feel very, very, very comfortable with this team. The defense, the offense, Jameson went through the names. He's just glazing over them. He's like, oh, they got this guy. Yes, they have a lot of dudes. And the thing is, they lost about no dudes. And so this team only got so much stronger. Jordan Travis, I think he is feeling great. He is, I think, going to be, could he win the Heisman? Maybe. Keon Coleman, Jared Verse on the defensive side of the ball, a great running back room. This team is loaded with talent, and I think LSU is going to be really good this year. I had my pick to win the West. I think they're going to beat Bama. I feel very comfortable with them, but I felt like last year is like Florida State really kind of ran away with this game till LSU started to realize, oh, Jaden Daniels has 2 pair of legs and can run the ball, and they just started running it down their throat. I don't think Florida State gets caught off guard by that this year. I don't think they're surprised by it. They know how to defend it a little bit more. They kind of got caught off guard last year, allowed LSU to get back in that ball game. I love Florida State. I love Florida State. I think this is going to be signature win, get them into the top 5. Then they have an easy road from there. Then just a game against Clemson, and you're looking good. So I'm taking the Noles. I'm very, very high on what Norvell has built there.
Blake, love the pick, of course. Love that we're paired up on this. But also, 2 pair of legs mean you have 4 legs.
It kind of looked like that last year. The way he was, how fast
like
and
Sonic
mobile
the
he was
Hedgehog
against that defense. They just got so caught off guard. I'm so, that's all he has. Like Jaden Daniels, I will say he improved last year a little bit on the accuracy, not turning the ball over, not making as many mistakes. But the man's still not an elite thrower. He's still not that. And so I just feel more comfortable. I feel like in a dude off, they have about the similar amount of dudes, but when it comes to quarterback, I love me some Jordan Travis. So give me the Noles all day long.
I love the term dude off. That's great.
Such a weird. Yeah, I will say, speaking of what maybe is or isn't financial advice, I like that Jordan Travis Heisman. I think potentially, again, I'm still sticking with LSU, but you're talking about a Florida State team that can really get on the national stage by beating LSU here, and then they have an ACC schedule. If Travis is even halfway decent, he could really, really have a good resume in the public eye and then statistically, I think. So I like that.
Yeah, and I love the odds. He has worse odds than or a better. He's a better bet than Quinn Ewers by far in terms of his ability. And I don't know.
We've actually seen something from him.
I do agree, but does the media not like the darling who's the breakout candidate in Quinn Ewers, who's overcame the adversity in his transfer and his injury last year, and he's got much better targets to throw to as well. And Texas is just a darling that college football has been begging to have a good season, and Texas has a position to be in a good, pretty good this season. I don't know if Quinn Ewers is an actually inferior to, my gosh, I'm completely blanking. My brain's turning off. Jordan Travis in terms of odds. I really don't. I really think that Quinn Ewers also is a decent pick too.
It's Ewers has the 3rd highest. Ewers is minus I think 600 off the top of my head. Plus everything's plus. No. What crap site would that be? No. He's plus 600, and Travis is almost pretty much double that is how I remember seeing it. So that's my thing. Is I think obviously media darling Ewers, if he has a good season, that is
no doubt
a good bet. But
if Ewers does half good this season, he's still going to be a media darling. You got to realize that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, hell, he's a media darling now, and he wasn't even really all that great last year. But anyways, we should move on to our next game. So if you are new to this, we do the national games, and then we go into the Big 12 ones. And folks, we're starting off with a really, really interesting one. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, 8-5 last year, both against the spread and overall, head to Laramie, Wyoming to take on the Wyoming Cowboys, who are 6-7 last season, 6-1 against the spread. And look, folks, if you've been following this, you know that Wyoming is completely unpredictable. So that checks out. Texas Tech is favored by 14 points. This game can be found 6:30 p.m. Central on CBS. So Blake, kick us off here. We know you don't have a lot of love for Cactus Gang, as the Tech fans affectionately refer to themselves on Twitter as. I don't know. Are you picking an upset here? You smelling a little upset, or are you thinking old Joey McGuire and the boys are going to go up to Laramie and get a good win?
I think this is look ahead central. I think this is climate central. I think everything is going in Wyoming's favor when it comes to this game. And look, even on my desk, have my little Wyoming helmet sitting right here. I love the Cowboys this weekend. Texas Tech is looking ahead to Oregon. This line is showing everything you need to know. People are like, why 14 points? Isn't Texas Tech? Everybody in the media has been giving them out as the dark horse Big 12 championship. 14 points against a Wyoming team? How is that possible? Because Wyoming builds solid programs. You look at that record last year, 7-6. With no context, you're like, that's all right. But with that context, a team that got absolutely gutted last year in the transfer portal, their whole team left, and their coach was able to bring those guys together, make a bowl game. They were projected near dead last, not like maybe Nevada or Hawaii, but towards the bottom of the Mount West, and like still overperformed. This team consistently overperforms with their talent. Solid on the offensive side of the ball, solid on the defensive side of the ball. I love 14. It's screaming to me. One of my favorite picks of the week. I feel great about the climate, the altitude. Tech is not going to be ready to play this game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think. And what has Tech really shown to make you fall in love? Everybody's fallen in love with the names and the recruiting and the hype and the Joey McGuire. Everything runs through Lubbock. Well, you're starting your season at a G5 on the road. Like, that's sad. That's kind of a second tier program type of move. That's why like TCU's ditching SMU, because can't be going on the road to G5 programs whenever you're trying to build a winner. So I am
about
all
ACC SMU.
Oh yeah, the ACC, but still broke boys. They're not going to get paid for like 8 or 9 years, and then it's just going to be hilarious when the ACC dissolves and then merges, or like all the other programs leave for the other conferences. And SMU basically just somehow found a way to lose significant amounts of money over 7 or 8 years for a long term investment. So yeah, give me the Cowboys. I love it. They're going to keep this one a lot closer than you think.
You guys don't even have to ask me, and I'm going to keep it short. I hate Wyoming. I hate everything about Wyoming. Wyoming's football team has just burned me so many times, and I'm not going to change anything. Sometimes at the beginning of seasons, I'm like, you know what? I'll make amends with this team. You know, we've had some tough times. We've had our problems in the past. But you know what? I don't hold grudges. I can move on. No, screw you, Wyoming. We're picking Texas Tech here.
Yeah, I will also keep it short. I love the beautiful foreboding in Jameson's segment where he gives a little monologue about teams that have burned him many times before and who he will never trust again. Look ahead on this weekend spread schedule because one is coming right on up. I also like Texas Tech in this one. I don't really even have any talking points on this other than it's the inverse of the NFL. Because, Josh Allen from Wyoming, 100 times better than Patrick Mahomes, easily. The biggest system quarterback in the history of system quarterbacks. So I don't know where I was going with that. I don't necessarily even hate Mahomes. I'm not sure why I went into that segment, but give me the Raiders in this one.
I'm going to say it. Ain't nobody getting up for this game if you're Texas Tech. This is Wyoming all the way in terms of a cover. This
gross.
Just feels like a gross game. And look, we're splitting on this, so we don't know which way it'll go. Usually the rule is if you go against Wyoming, Wyoming wins. If you wild card for or against Wyoming, you're going to lose. It's a split. And not only that, but I really feel like this is just a gross game. I feel like Texas Tech does their best work when they're the underdogs, when they have something to play for, when it's like a big deal, like we could make a statement, everything goes through Lubbock. Nobody cares about Wyoming. They're going to come into this one sleepwalking and maybe struggle a little bit. I don't think they lose. I don't think they struggled that much. But I think Wyoming gets the cover, keeps this thing close in just a total gross game. There's always one of them in a week one. I think this is going to be one of them on this college football slate. So anyways, let's move on to our next one. We have Big Ten football on NBC and Peacock. It is West Virginia at Penn State. Mountaineers went 5-7 last year, 6-6 against the spread, traveling to State College, Happy Valley, to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions, ranked 7th in the country, looking to be a big year for James Franklin and his crew. They went 11-2 last year, 9-3-1 against the spread. Penn State favored by 20.5. You can find this game 6:30 Central Time, once again on NBC and Peacock. I'll kick us off here. West Virginia, first of all, actually, the state of Oklahoma owes Neil Brown a massive thank you, because our two teams being absolute ass against them this year saved his job. This man should not be employed by West Virginia. We were waiting on it the entire season. When's the midseason firing happen? It never came. They just kept winning these dumb games. And here he's back again. He's walking into a buzzsaw here. This Penn State team, I feel like, has a lot of potential. I'm not quite as high on them as some people are. Some people are putting them as their Big Ten champs in their playoff. I think that's a little ambitious. But there's no way, in my opinion, that West Virginia walks into this with anything but a massive, massive loss under the lights at Beaver Stadium. So give me Penn State to win big, cover that spread. Ty, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is I think this is a really neat sort of week one game, some cool conference matchups. These teams a lot closer than a lot of people, would think, unless East Coast geography is just always on your mind. I'm pretty sure most people know that these are pretty close. But here's the thing. I think Penn State has this one. I'm taking the Nittany Lions in this one, but I always have to have my bone to pick with Penn State. The school is massive. It is legitimately 3 times larger than OU. They have almost 90,000 students. It's absolutely absurd that, and again, it's against West Virginia, right? They call West Virginia the small Arizona state of the East. But it's like the Big Ten always plays this. We're academically so much better, like blah, blah, blah. You have almost 100,000 people going to your school. Like how is that selective in any way? I always have to do that to Penn State. And look, Penn State, never good. They always flounder in conference play, but what they have going for them is democracy, because like I just said, they can just outvote everyone into thinking that they're good because there's so many of them. Penn State, I believe, still the school with the most living alumni, which is absolutely absurd. Give me the Penn State Nittany Lions. I don't like them. I don't want to have to do this, but I do.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm not one of the ones that is trying to put Penn State in my playoff, but I think they're a lot of fun this year. And obviously, I'm extremely down on West Virginia. Like, they haven't even named a starting quarterback yet. And it's not like that, they have a bunch of new guys coming through and they just haven't really decided. No, they have had guys that have been there for a while. And like Garrett Green, who's done some really bad things, also done some good things. They legitimately still haven't released who their starting quarterback is, and it's Wednesday. Like, are you kidding me? We're fading this so hard. 20.5, Penn State, night game in Happy Valley. Drew Aller's coming out party. It's on, NBC primetime TV. He's going to put up huge numbers versus West Virginia defense, and people are going to hype him up, and it's going to be a blowout. Give me Penn State, easiest pick of the week.
I'm making it 4. This one's just so. West Virginia's a dead man walking. I know I didn't pick them to be last in the Big 12 just because I still think they got some guys to run the ball a little bit. Not as much on the defensive side of the ball, but at least have an identity there. But this team is dreadful. Like, I think Neil Brown's gone by the middle of the season. And, Penn State has every reason to be excited about. They've gotten rid of that dirty virus that was Sean Clifford, just stuffing up their quarterback room for the last few years, taking them absolutely nowhere in the Big Ten. And Drew Aller's fun. He's going to be, he adds a dimension. He's already, just by stepping one foot on the field, not having taken a pass, a significantly better passer than Sean Clifford. And I know that man has some mobility in his legs.
NFL draft pick above the recently cut
is
Max
insane.
Duggan. Sean
That
Clifford.
is just absolutely nuts. Like, if you're talking about quarterback evaluation, and I turned on some Sean Clifford game film, he doesn't pass very well. He doesn't run very well. He doesn't make that good of decisions. At least have a guy that has some upside with his legs to take before, but that's NFL scouts for you. They don't really understand like much. They don't seem to really watch the games all too much, and somehow, because they're like, oh, he's a pocket passer, must be a pro-style quarterback. Pro-style my ass. This guy sucked. He was one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen play the game of football because he was able to do just well enough to keep the starting job, but would always make the backbreaking play. So I think Penn State's going to have a great year. I think they probably win one of the Michigan or the Ohio State games, or at least are playing very competitively in both. Like, I think you're going to see a difference, maybe not record wise, but in just talent, elevation, just juice in this team. So give me Penn State. I'm taking the 20.5. There's the only thing that scares me about this West Virginia is they're just going to run the clock out by just running the ball all the time, just not giving Penn State enough time. But
Damn
even
new
then,
clock.
I'm not worried. The new clock sucks. I know we haven't talked about it much, but like, especially in these run heavy games, it's just like, I think there's only like 13 or 14 plays run in the first quarter of Notre Dame and Navy or something ridiculous like that. It cut, like, I think in the end, it cut like 10 minutes of time off of it. They just pump you with more commercials. That's all they're doing. So it's like really frustrating that like a game, I would say the perfect game last year, like you want the clock to stop on first downs because you get the TCU Baylors of the world where like TCU is down and out and is able to kind of pull back in. That's what makes fourth quarter college interesting. Like, they're not good enough like the NFL to have high skill 2-minute drives, really efficient. They're just not. Like, you need some of that variance. I just never watched college football and said I need this to be significantly shorter. I say the commercial breaks need to stop, but not the actual game itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a play for people who aren't college football fans, who are just casual people. This is a play for, someone who is an NFL fan who wants something to watch on Saturdays. This is not for the people who actually watch the sport. It reduces plays and doesn't reduce the game time in the first place. So it's garbage. The NCAA can't get anything right. But
yeah, the underdogs were 5-2 in covering the spread last week, if that's data for you.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to our next one. We've got the UTSA Roadrunners, 11-3 last season in 2022, 7-7 against the spread. They are heading to Deku Stadium, I think it's called, to face the one of the newest Big 12 members, the Houston Cougars, who went 8-5 last season, which is kind of shocking in retrospect. 5-8 against the spread, though. Roadrunners favored by 1.5 here. Meep meep. And you can find this one at 6 p.m. Central on FS1. Blake, kick us off here and try not to go too in depth on how bad the new FS1 score bug is.
Oh, God, just another change to the game. They decided to go for that mid-90s, like, Nickelodeon-type score bug, which FS1 probably had the best score bug in all of the, like, college football presentations. It was simple, clean, told you the information, and didn't have any frills. I loved it. Of course, they change it up because everybody just refuses to stay complacent on good. But this one's pretty easy for me. UTSA. I understand why they're favored, even going to Houston. You get Frank Harris, one of the most experienced quarterbacks in America at this point. I think that man's going on 25, 26 at this point. I think he's in his 5th year, maybe even 6th year. He keeps on finding a way to stay back at UTSA. Jeff Traylor's incredible coach. Although they lost their top receiver this year, they're kind of my dark horse, not even dark horse pick. They're the one I took the future on to win the American because they return so much on both sides of the ball. They're an experienced team that seems to play good non-conference opponents. Like, we're only a year, maybe 2, but a year removed from them going to Illinois and beating Illinois. Like, this team is prepared to play Power 5 competition. And I think U of H is probably going to be the worst of all the Big 12 schools. They lost Tank Dell and Clayton Tune. Like, although there's only 2 guys, that was basically their entire offense in a very lackluster season last year. They weren't shining in that really putrid American. I just have no hope for them. I think Dana Holgorsen, ironic that Neil Brown's going to get fired. Dana Holgorsen, I think, is on the same path this year. Give me UTSA in the points.
You said some of my main talking points, so I guess I'm just going to reiterate it and kind of emphasize it. Houston did not look good to me last year. I understand they're 8-5, and just by the eye test, I did not like the way they played. Clayton Tune probably will be the starter for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know if that means they cut Colt McCoy because they liked Clayton Tune that much. Obviously, you guys listening to this context, or are they just tanking that much? I don't really know what Arizona's doing. This would be a great year to tank in the NFL.
But they also brought in Josh Dobbs too to just muck that up even more.
It's just so much muck. But yeah, Clayton Tune might start week 1 as a quarterback in the NFL. And then Tank Dell is a dude. Like, he is really good. And like, he is showing things like he might be one of the better wide receivers rookies, that wasn't like a first round pick in the NFL right now. That is a big time talent you lost. And then on the other side of things, UTSA returning 9 of 11 starters with their quarterback, Frank Harris, being like a guy who's been there, done that, like 4,000 yards. Like, this guy is too good. I think UTSA handles Houston easily here.
Yeah, matchup between 2 group of 5 teams. I don't care. Houston's never not going to be group of 5. I don't know. I got to go with
school.
They are no, they are a commuter school. That's not even a joke.
I know.
It's not even like a real university. It's like one of those like for-profit, unregulated or unaccredited, whatever it's called, universities. But yeah, I like the Roadrunners in this one. I don't like Houston. I'm never going to pick for Houston. I just don't like it. I don't know why. No redeeming qualities. You guys say they're good in basketball. Allegedly, is that a real sport? Is that not? Debatable. All I'm saying is I've never seen a basketball team win the SEC football championship.
You can't talk about basketball on this pod like that. I'd be acceptable as baseball.
Fair enough.
Is Houston good at baseball?
Or English Premier League as an American as well?
I was like gun to head. If you asked me if they even had a baseball team, I couldn't tell you. And I watched a decent amount of baseball.
They do because OU played them and they murdered them. I seem to remember. But
how can you be bad at baseball in the state of Texas? Like, really? Like, you don't even have to get the top recruits, but damn, like
even Boco's good. Isn't Texas State kind of good?
Dallas Baptist is a power. Like,
yeah.
Didn't Boco beat Texas this year?
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
Oh, give me some of that.
But even Boco is spicy.
Yum.
That's pretty bad. No, so this kind of is the commuter bowl, though. UTSA, I believe, also is pretty commutery. But they are a better football program, and I think their rise is just continuing, taking another step. I believe they're in the American now. Or are they in the Sun Belt, Blake? I can't remember. American, yeah. So they're kind of taking Houston's place here. I think they've got this thing going. I like the Roadrunners here a lot for a lot of the reasons that everyone said here. But I will never pass up a chance to pick UTSA because I think they're a lot spicier than people realize on an annual basis. So speaking of Boco, speak of the devil. We've got the Texas State Bobcats. Janky on the graphic. I don't know how they ended up all the way over there. Very weird to balance. 4-8 last year. Got rid of Jake Spavital. It's a new era for the Texas State Bobcats, who we affectionately refer to as Boco after their mascot, who is a major in partyology, as Ty so gratefully revealed to us like 4 years ago. They're 5-7 against the spread. They traveled to Waco, Texas to take on the Baylor Bears, who are 6-7. Not a great year for Baylor. 7-6 against the spread, though. They look to bounce back in a big way. Favored by 27.5 here. You can find this one 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus / the little Big 12 network thing they got going on. Jameson, all of these games, most of these are at 6. They all look good. but you're going to be popping in to watch your yearly dose of Boko. So I more power to you. Yeah, look, I think this Texas State team, they got some portal talent. They're not good enough. I think Baylor really bounces back this year. I like the Bears a lot in the Big 12 as a whole. I think Dave Aranda isn't down for long. Baylor usually tends to be up and down, and it's Texas State. I know what happens with Texas State here. I'm picking Baylor minus 27.5. Ty?
Yes, ever since I discovered Boko and released him into the podcast, Boko is an invasive species on the podcast. I released him onto the podcast. It hit one time. I gave a good little speech about all the intricate lore that is involved with Boko the Bobcat, their mascot. I encourage anyone to look it up. It's actually pretty hilarious, the depth of lore that he has written about him. Texas State, not good. One of the worst programs in Texas in the past couple of years. I like the Baylor Bears in this one. Hate to have to pick against Boko, but the thing about picking Boko is it only works for you one time a year. This is not going to be the time this year that I ride with Boko the Bobcat. Give me the Bears.
All right. Well, here we are.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. There's a part of me that thought you were referring to Texas State as the Bears, and that's why I laughed. But I forgot Baylor was. Also
that's
very
what Baylor's. Yeah, that's what Baylor's called.
Yeah, that is what they're called. That was a really dumb moment. I'm not gonna lie, Jameson. Who do you have next?
That's not a nickname. That's just actually their mascot.
So
groundbreaking journalism.
Here's the thing. It's a brand new season. Oh God, here we go again. I just need to talk things out. So just please let me be here in my safe space as I kind of just get over things, because I'm an addict. I understand I'm past the first stage of recovery. I've acknowledged my problem. Texas State is just this pink dragon I just continue on to chase, but it seems like I just always come up a loser. Last year, I don't think I had any positives with my Texas State ventures. I use them as my wild card, and wild cards typically have had an unbelievable, winning record. We barely miss on our wild cards.
Well,
Texas State lost me it last year, and that hurt. And I saved it towards the end, and they really, really let me down. I just got to realize whenever I'm in a toxic relationship, and I just got to get out of there. Even if I do like Texas State here, and I see the spread and I see they're a possibility. They've got TJ Finley from Auburn, who I absolutely hated at Auburn, but you know what? Hey, that's at least something. I just can't look at this game logically. I just know that if I pick Texas State here, it'll just be so toxic for me. And I've just got to move on. So listeners, Schooner Pod, I have to move on from Texas State. So give me Baylor.
For the record, you did pick Boko last year, and it did hit. But Boko hit on your wild card one time, but you did use your pot of greed, which, by the way, is one pick you can use whenever. Add it on. You added it on and lost.
Oh, so, it was a pot. It was a pot of greed.
It was a pot of greed.
That's instead of wild card. That's what I meant.
You voluntarily chose Texas State twice, though, which is genuinely hilarious. Blake, what do you think about this one?
F it, Boko. I'm all in. I see the path here. Yeah. I see it. I see it. They got some dogs in that quarterback room. They got Malik Hornsby. They got TJ Finley. They haven't even decided a starter yet because they got dogs. So I think their quarterback play this year is going to be surprisingly a little bit better. Oh, and then I just see it.
What have we seen from TJ Finley that makes you think that they're going to be good?
He's a dog. He goes out there all gimpy. I feel like I saw him in that Auburn Alabama game, just like hobbling around, just slinging the ball, not doing anything. But he was at least out there.
Barely even connect with any. Okay, but no, I'm not going to argue this. You continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm counting on one of those guys being slightly decent, and then I'm going all in on the new clock rules. I just think Baylor's going to like run the ball like no other this year. And I think they just drain the clock way too much that backdoor city is open in this game. I think it's just they're going to get on Richard Reese, just be running the ball, going to run it down their throats, granted. But I think too much time goes off the clock. The little late minute drive, I hit that backdoor cover. 27.5 is gross. Like if you've paid attention to these lines being given out this week, nuts. They have not been a good, like, solid football number at all. A lot of 2.5s, 4.5s, 27.5s, 20.5s when it came to Penn State, West Virginia. It's a nasty number. I just see backdoor potential all day in this one. So give me Boca the Bobcat.
There's a lot. There are like a couple 36s, which is gross as hell. Like that is like Vegas adding a 000, which they have done to some roulette tables.
why would
That's
they
just
do that?
gross.
I do want to say, as we record this Wednesday evening, I'm looking at these lines. We lock these lines in a couple hours before the podcast, typically sometimes a couple days. This line is actually moved up to 28 fully now, from what I'm seeing. So Texas State looking tempting if you're actually looking at betting on this one potentially.
A little
It
tasty
is. It
Boca
is
action.
looking very, very tempting.
So keep
Can we
in mind,
move on?
in addition,
Please.
keep in mind, in addition to the pot of greed, which you can use once per season, you also have one mulligan where you can go back and change your pick
Per
and
episode.
not per episode,
No!
per season.
You almost convinced Bobby
No,
just to
no.
repeat it.
No. One mulligan per season. You can go back at any point in time in the episode and go back and change your pick up until everything is locked in with the wild cards and pot of greeds.
One mulligan
just-
per episode, as if we don't
God.
already take so long.
That'd be horrible. We'd be mulliganing, like, especially as it got down to the end, people just be mulliganing just so they could try to like game the system.
No,
Yeah, it'd
that's
be bad.
collusion. We'd call you out for that.
Collusion,
No.
obviously bad. Obviously bad. Let's move on to our next game. And Blake, the folks at Fox have been telling me this is the biggest season opener in recent college football history. It's the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime, 1-11 last year, 2-10 against the spread, making their way down to Fort Worth to face the national runner-up TCU Horned Frogs, ranked 17. Sonny Dykes and the crew went 13-2 last season, 10-4-1 against the spread. They are favored by a whopping 20.5 points. This game is a big nude kickoff on Fox. And again, they won't shut up about how it's the biggest game, blah, 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 blah. And as you can see from our very clickbaity title, I'm going to go ahead and ask you the question, Blake. And also, actually, no, I'm going to ask you this question first. Why are you wearing a Colorado sweatshirt?
Yeah, everybody keeps on commenting on that. It is Colorado State. I'm going double because put my biggest future in on Colorado State earlier this week. Feel very confident. We might, just a little preview for the wild card, could be getting there when we get to the wild card, but I'm going at this at all angles just because TCU's going to destroy this team. I'm tired. This is the casuals game supreme. I saw our friend Ford Brandon posted in the chat that he's feeling confident about the Buffs and what the ultimate casual take I've ever seen. This team, if you take out their two corners, and I guess one plays corner and wide receiver, and maybe their quarterback. I don't even know if Shador Sanders is the real deal, but I'm like gifting them that. This team's a bottom like 10 Power 5 team. They stunk last year, and they didn't retain really anybody. And they got better a little bit through the transfer portal, but they lost basically any ounce of depth that they had. This game, I was honestly just excited for. Like, honestly, I had no hard feelings. I enjoyed the Colorado game last year, enjoyed the fans, but their fans have become rabid on Twitter. There was I guess a guy that wrote for Sports Illustrated for the Colorado specific stuff came through and said not a single TC wide receiver would make the top 8 in the Colorado wide receiver room. Are we kidding? Are we kidding ourselves? He used some of the most phony logic I've ever seen in an article, basically being like, everybody says Colorado was 1-11 last year. Like, that's like, it's a completely different team. You shouldn't use that. Like, oh, you should look at TCU. They weren't the second best team last year. If you look at the new polls this year, they're 17th. His logic was flip-flopping all over the place, more flip-flops than a beach. And just to add on top of it all, we get this press tour. If you were watching an FS1, a Fox game last week, you got a barrage every single commercial break of a commercial highlighting Colorado's first game of the year. I don't even think they mentioned TCU's name at all throughout the commercial. They just say against the national runner-up. That is all they say. And I'm not big into these, like, they are hating on us, they're disrespecting us, nobody believes in us, because Georgia and Alabama are playing this whenever they're in the playoff every single year. Like, Kirby Smart's consistently saying that because 2 members in the SEC didn't have them winning the East or something crazy like that. But from a TCU side, what the heck? You were second in the nation last year, and I know you lost a lot of guys, but now you're just being treated like trash. You're being treated like you're a program with no respect, that this is a complete fluke, which I think this year they somehow have a bigger chip on their shoulder than last year, which makes no sense because we were the national runner-ups. We beat a Michigan team, a very good Michigan team, one that many have in the national championship game this year. This game dumbfounds me. I was not very passionate about it going in. I was excited to watch it, but these Colorado fans be acting up in the chat. These articles that are coming out, this promotion, it's absolutely insane. Fox is getting their Colorado game out of the way early because they know Deion Sanders is likely going to have like 2 wins by the end of the season. Easy cover. We're going to demolish them. We are going to demolish them. And I love this because I know that line probably could have been a little bit higher if it wasn't for the casuals that they're just keeping it down because they're taking a lot of action on it. So give me the Frogs. I feel so great about this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I had an around the horn mute button to use on Blake right now, because I know I'm gonna say this, and I know he's gonna want to go on a rant. But is Fox kind of actually the bad guy instead of ESPN? Because I feel like Fox feels like they do worse things than ABC and the Mouse do.
Yeah, but they do more like overt things that, like, I think like your second layer of casuals can kind of see the disrespect. ESPN's doing the backroom dealings that is like destroying the sport at its fabric, and that doesn't get talked about enough. But yes, I do think
which network got UCLA and USC from the Pac-12, Blake? Which
it's
which
Fox,
network?
CBS, and the Cock, and it's a conglomeration of them. Fox is the ultimate, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's kind of how I've settled on them at this. Like, I have to fight a war on one front. I'm only one man, so I got to go at the big bad, the evilest. But yes, I do agree. Like, I'm not saying they are holier than thou. They are not. They have a blemished record for sure.
Fair enough. Sometimes you got to do a couple war crimes to win the war, right, Blake?
Basically, like, it's a battle out here.
Anyways,
I'm trying to save our sport.
Anyways, Jameson, who do you got in this game?
Here's the thing. I thought about probably this whole offseason just picking Colorado for the bit. And then I'm like, you know what? I think that's more of a tie kind of thing, because I think Ty's been lining that up for a long time.
I will not pick Colorado for the bet. I big pinky promise. I will not pick Colorado for the bit.
I
feel like Ty
tries to convince me to not let him be an island boy on this, and it's not going to work. Give me TCU. Go with your brain in Fort Worth. The fans are going to be pumping him up. Chandler Morris is that dude. I understand that he was having troubles at the beginning of the season, injury, blah, blah, blah. Like, still, I understand there's a lot of missing talent on this TCU team. Colorado won 1 game last year, guys, and then shed their whole roster. Like, how does that make you feel that they're going to do good in their first game of the season? They're going to have so many hiccups this season, and I just don't see any scenario where the first game goes without any hiccups. It's just going to be sloppy and bad, and TCU is too stable.
Ty,
here's what y'all gotta know. Last year, TCU was the biggest Cinderella story since a former assistant greenskeeper became the Masters champion on a hole-in-one on the 18th hole. That is a deep cut reference. I hope somebody got that one. I think they take a big step back, but I think TCU is a significantly better team than this Colorado team. I don't want to hear it about the whole transfer portal thing. I personally, right? I believe to an extent in Coach Prime, caveat, which I will address later. I do not believe in his son at quarterback. I can't even think of a good comparison. I mean, that's just absolute nepotism. For those that watch Formula One, it's a Lance Stroll situation at quarterback. Absolutely. I think he probably could be a starter, maybe some other places, but I do not. I think that the most likely outcome for this Colorado experiment is Coach Prime in a press conference blaming his players for the way that things have done, and then just basically ghosting the school and not returning. And the evidence that I have for that is his bowl record at Jackson State is just questionable to me, because he always had better players. He always had better talent. He always had the momentum, and just couldn't finish 0-2 in the postseason. Just a big question mark, big worry point for me. I like what he's doing at Colorado. I think it's the future of college football. I mean, look at the momentum that he's built up. And that momentum, I think, is key to what I'm about to say here. I think TCU got absolutely punched in the mouth in the championship game, not trying to make a bit towards Blake. I think TCU was a very good team last year. I think Max Duggan is being disrespected and underrated as a quarterback just because the brand that he went to. If Max Duggan was still Max Duggan in every other respect, but went to Bama or went to OU or something else, he'd have a starting job in the NFL, and people would be saying, oh, he's kind of struggled in the preseason, blah, blah, blah. He'll be great. I think he's being slept on in terms of his contribution for a TCU team that won so many close games last year. I think I've had this take since it was a joke at first, early on in the end of last season, but the more I've thought about it, the more it's just grown on me. I think Colorado wins like 2 games this year, maybe 3. And I think the absolute funniest thing, and I think I've talked myself into this, I legitimately think Colorado beats TCU and then just absolutely gets embarrassed the rest of their schedule. It would be absolutely hilarious. So I'm taking Colorado to cover for sure. We'll give a whole thing about the new clock rules, like blah, blah, blah. I think Colorado is going to be trash this year, but I think they win against TCU. So give me Colorado plus 20.5. This is not for the bit. I believe in this take.
It's always an inception of bits with
Colorado.
you.
This is not an
Colorado
inception of
beating.
bits. I think Colorado,
It's a bit within a
Colorado
bit within
could
a
go
bit.
1-11 this year, with their win being week 1 against TCU. Would be absolute. And then TCU could go like 13-2 again this year, but then they have this Colorado loss they have to explain.
Oh my God.
It would be hilarious. Give me the Buffs. I'm a longtime Buff sympathizer. You guys knew this was going to come. Give me the Colorado Buffaloes. Coming back to the Big 12, give me the Buffs.
Incredible. I didn't see that twist coming, but I love it. Okay, look, here's my thing. It's always funny when people talk about TCU and the portal in regards to this game, when they're playing a team that has 86 new players. Colorado has flipped it. Coach Prime has actively been saying he does not care about building culture, because culture's he literally said, I'm pretty sure this is a real quote, like, because the person was like, I can't believe this is not actually a fake quote. He was like, yeah, I've been on teams where the quarterback like hated this guy hated that guy, and we still ended up winning. So culture doesn't matter. I don't know. I am out on Deion Sanders. I think this will be about as good as Prime Prep went. If anyone knows that story, don't Google Prime Prep. Just kidding. Google Prime Prep. It didn't go well. It was Bishop Sycamore before Bishop Sycamore was a thing. Yeah, Deion and Colorado, they have their work cut out. 2 guys isn't going to cut it against a TCU team that reloaded with some really, really solid talent. Yeah, the Frogs are going to run rampant over Colorado here. Sorry, Ty. Hate to do it to you.
I will say I'll feel bad for Deion Sanders like at the end of the year. Like if he takes this team to win 4 games, that's honestly great with this roster, but then the casuals are going to go the other way and be like, look at this big failure Deion did. Like can't even get this team to a bowl game. Like he'll never win in this position. That's the thing. Like he'll never win like as a head coach, like the public view, because they'll always find something wrong with him. So, but yeah, he's going to get destroyed here. Like that roster's bad. It is like he did a good job in the portal, but like the roster was horrendous. Like they had no depth to start, have no depth. If Shedeur Sanders goes down this year, like kiss the season goodbye, because he told the quarterback room when he came in that his son was the starter and his his baggage is Louis or whatever. Like he's like no transfer portal quarterback would ever think to go to that program just because they know they'll never get like a glimpse at starting.
Yeah, he brought his bags and they were Louis, but the Louis bag was like this big. So, it was like one of those little purse things, one of those tiny little little things you carry around. No, it wasn't a suitcase or luggage.
Coach Prime can certainly afford plenty of nice luggage. I completely forgot. I had something that I was going to say that actually was a relevant fact, but I've forgotten. I still ride with the Buffaloes. I think this will be a hilarious segment in the future next week when I'm doing the Stephen A. Smith walking in with a cowboy hat and a cigar.
There's no way this doesn't end hilariously, and I'm for it. Well, all of the games we've talked about, they pale in comparison to this next one, which is the one that everybody in the college football world will be watching. It's the Arkansas State Red Wolves, who are 3-9 last season, 7-5 against the spread, heading to Norman, the Palace on the Prairie, to take on the Oklahoma Sooners, ranked 20th off of a very disappointing, horrible 6-7 season last year, 5-8 against the spread, one of the worst teams against the spread. Sooners, despite that, we're back for another year. We're excited to see improvement. The Sooners favored by 36 in game 1. This one kicking off at 11 a.m. Central Time on ESPN right after College Game Day. So there you go. You get right to it. So I'll kick us off here. 36 is too many points. And I think, to me, I think OU can cover this. But the margin of error, especially when it comes to later in the game and the clock rules and everything, it's too thin. I don't feel comfortable laying 36 points with the Sooners here, especially with how bad the defense is. I think we see improvement. I think it goes okay. But just from a pure business decision, I'm not laying 36 points on this OU team. So I'm going to go with Arkansas State plus 36 points here. Just because I could see them, picking up 2 touchdowns after being up OU goes up 42-0. Arkansas State picks up 2 garbage touchdowns. There you go. It's over. So, I'm taking Arkansas State here.
Schooner Pod fans. Pause, reset. Take 2. Schooner Pod fans, it is a sad, sad day when Sooner fan Bobby. Sorry, everyone. I had a long day at work. When Sooner fan Bobby goes against OU in week 1, you hate to see it. He's long been known to be an Oklahoma State sleeper agent. It's now just becoming apparent.
Oh God,
I got picked.
I like the Sooners in this one. Why? Because I'm an OU fan. Everyone, should be riding with the Sooners here. Here's what I think, right? I think we take a step forward from last year. Last year was an embarrassing year, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's excusable, right? I had this whole hating on OU thing because they lost the weekend spread because I was picking for them when I knew they weren't going to cover, and I just wanted to ride with my Sooners. And earlier today, I saw Colin Cowherd make a take that I've made before. I made a long time ago in saying that is OU the next Nebraska? It's much easier to become Nebraska than it is to turn it around and become, the next Bama or something like that. But when I heard him say it, it lit a fire in me. I got to ride with the Sooners. And I think OU has this one. We have all the reason to run the score up and keep on the gas, even if we're putting in our backup quarterback, our backup receivers, everyone else. We have the depth, and we need to show people coming off of last season that we are a legitimate team and we're back. And I think that winning against Arkansas State by at least 36 is not that much to do. I mean, you put up 49, and then let them have a touchdown. You cover there. Probably don't do the math on that one. I went to OU. I can't do the math in my head. I like the Sooners.
Here's the thing. Ty, yeah, I feel like we took the Sooners a lot last year. I picked OU to cover in the weekend spread every single week last year. Every single week. Now,
if I remember correctly, you were 5-8.
Yes, that is indeed correct. That is a very good memory of you, Ty. I mean, here's the thing. It hurts being 5-8 picking OU. Same time, it really sucks watching them, lose games as well. Whenever you're picking them, it's just tough. So I kept them in the back of my brain. But I also was thinking about, that Notre Dame Navy game, I feel like is a good kind of barometer of how these larger lines are going to go in week one. So I just went ahead and just looked at this box score and how things went for Notre Dame. They scored a touchdown every single drive that they had in the first half. And then in the second half, they scored touchdowns and then missed a field goal on one of them. And then it was the end of the game, 42-3. That would barely, if that was the same scenario for Oklahoma, that means they would barely just cover. And that's assuming Oklahoma only gives up 3 points. And it's just, I still feel like our defense has got a lot to improve on. I feel like there's a lot of things you can really talk about and being optimistic about, but it's not just going to be like a snap of a finger in Oklahoma's defense that had a lot of holes and it's going to get cured from the offseason. You're always going to hear about the positives in the offseason. You hear about the players that are flashing and doing great. But, there's always going to be some issues. And I'm ready to see what we have to improve on in this first game. We probably won't be able to take too much from it. I just don't see a scenario where I can feel comfortable in picking over 36 for OU. So I'm going to go Arkansas State plus 36.
Sad day. Sad day when TCU fan Blake has to ride with the Sooners with me.
Yep, and I'm riding with them. I guess I'm one of the only OU supporters on this podcast. This is just quick maths, quick, easy maths. You have Dylan Gabriel, who I know Ty does not like, but competent enough against a really bad Arkansas State team to run up the scoreboard on him. And then in the second half, you have probably even the better quarterback, Jackson Arnold, come in, who's going to run up the scoreboard on him because he needs to put some good tape out there. Because the one thing we know about OU fans, if you have one bad quarter as a quarterback, they want you out. They are booing you. They want you gone so quick. And Jackson Arnold knows just like a little half, just a few minutes of good film, OU fans will be clamoring for him. So this is just so easy. Arkansas State's bad. Brent Venables has been puffing his chest, saying the defense is going to be a lot better, that he's going to step up, take accountability, put his hands on it, then show it. You should basically only allow about 3 points to this team, maybe. And that's off of some fluky type stuff. Arkansas State's bad. They're a really bad Sun Belt team. It's OU. It's OU. Arkansas State's not going to score.
It's just a matter of depth, though. But I don't know if Oklahoma has the second, third unit depth that, makes me feel super comfortable in shutting them out, definitively shutting them out.
I don't know.
That's the biggest thing.
Arkansas State's really bad. 3-9 for the Sun Belt is horrendous. It's a league where you're basically guaranteed a few wins just off of weird fluky stuff that happens on a weekday night, and they're 3-9. I don't think they got much better either. I don't know much about this Arkansas State team, but I think they're so bad.
I'm just fading big lines this week is really what it is. I just feel like college football betting they're obviously taking it into their formula of the new clock, but I just feel like it still hasn't caught up all the way.
Jameson, you've taken every big line this entire show. You took a 27.5, a 20.5, a 14, you have not gone the opposite way taking the points on one of the big lines.
Yes, the 27.5, I had to use a pure, that was me coping. Did I want to pick 27.5? You're absolutely right. Don't bring it back up.
You can always use your mulligan.
No.
Yeah. I'm trying to think
the Penn State thing, and then the Penn State thing is like it's 20.5, Penn State versus West Virginia. And I believe so much in Penn State, and I believe so little in West Virginia. So this is different. You can't bring up my past in this one.
Don't get me started on this week was 4.5. The most points you took on an underdog this week was 4.5 points. Talking about this is why I'm fading the big point spreads this week. One of them.
Well, how many games do we have that are over 30? Only one, and I'm fading it.
That's fair.
And the 27.5 one, I told you that I'm doing it so I can cope. Okay, I don't want to pick Baylor. Why do I want to pick Baylor? I don't. I want to pick Texas State 27.5 so bad. It's gonna make it so fun to watch this weekend. Man, come on! I would love to get back on that train. It feels so good. I used to be addicted. Just let me get out. Let me move on.
This is a man. This is a man who's in voco recovery. He deleted his number from his phone entirely. He's trying to move on.
Man,
Blake playing masterful 4D chess on Jameson here, trying to make him argue about the OU line so that he mulligans on Texas State. This is why Blake is a master of the craft. Love to see it. But yeah, this just goes to prove, right, to put a cap on the OU versus Arkansas State. That's why they say keep your friends close, your enemies closer. Once again, Blake, TCU fan, Baylor alum, bandwagon TCU fan, potentially since he's a Baylor alum. The only person riding with me for the Sooners here this week. Hopefully the fans, I think, are riding with the Sooners. But yeah, there are some Brutuses, so to speak, in the pod this week.
And look, I'll be more than happy. I'll be more than happy if they cover 36. I would be happy to take that L. But at the same time, why am I trusting a team that went 5-8 against the spread to cover 36 in a situation where you could blow leads? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's no love lost to the Sooners. It just doesn't make sense in my mind to go with this. So, anyways, guys, it's time for our favorite pick of the week at long last.
Why aren't the brakes working? Because I cut the brakes. Wild card, bitches.
It's time for our wild card picks, meaning we can pick any single game from across the slate. Repeats, you can do them. Are they encouraged? No. You can still do them though. No. We'll just judge you heavily. Blake, I believe. Well, wait, was it me or was it? No, yeah, it was Blake.
No, it's me.
Blake, you have the honor of kicking us off here with the first wild card of the 2023 season. Who do you got?
Didn't hide it very well. Talked about it a little bit when I was talking about TCU in repping the nice, clean sweatshirt. It's Colorado State plus 11 versus Washington State. Once again, another P5 team coming to my conference, the Mountain West Conference, coming into one of those hostile environments. And I've gone over this on the Group of 5 preview. I've talked about it a little bit. I'm all in on Colorado State this year. 4.5 took the mega juice over wins. I believe in this team. I think Jay Norvell is going to take them to a brand new level. Last year, they had an offensive line that was basically guys my size blocking for their quarterback. Their quarterback, a freshman, Clay Millen, had one of the highest completion percentages ever for a freshman quarterback. This guy is good. And they bring in some solid wide receivers. They shore up that defense. I've seen what Jay Norvell has done at a Nevada program, which gets one of the worst recruiting classes in the entire Mountain West and makes them somehow relevant every single year. And he's going to do the exact same thing with this Rams squad. I love the 11 points. I think Washington State's a decent team. I think their hair is on fire right now because of everything that's gone on with realignment. I get that. They don't have anything against Colorado State. They got to travel to Fort Collins, got to play this team, a team that I think is going to be much improved on offense. Cam Ward scares me a slight bit. I've always been a Cam Ward stan, but I think this is the week. I'm going to take Colorado State plus the 11. I'm also going to take them, sprinkle a little bit on the money line. So give me the Rams.
Yeah, I saw that one coming in. It made me feel good that at least I can get my wild card pick out. Thought about, usually sometimes I pick one of the Thursday night games so I can get really invested early on, but I get really nervous picking Nebraska in week 1. Almost picked Nebraska +7 versus our good boy Fleck just because we're on the fade Flex squad. But okay, I can't do that. That's just too scary. If it was anyone else other than Nebraska, I would have done that. Here's my thing. Washington -14 at home playing Boise State, I think covers that one easily. Here's why. Michael Penix Jr., like the way that he stepped up last year, like it was unbelievable. What I thought of him, Indiana, compared to what he's doing at Washington, that their offense was unbelievable. And they've got Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan. Like he's got targets all over the field. This Washington team's pretty damn good. I think Washington gets ahead early and runs away with a -14 spread.
Oh, bad pick. Bad pick. I'm going to say it now. Taylen Green, what Mountain West coaches are calling the reincarnation of Vince Young out west. This Boise State squad is raw this year. No more Hank Bachmeier. We saw his trash ass last week in the Law Tech. We know how they were doing under him. Taylen Green is the true dual threat superstar. I think 14's a little too many. And of course, Jameson talking about these big point spreads again.
That's not a big, that is 2 scores. That is 2 scores for
I cannot get over. I love non-conference season because every once in a while we'll throw out a wild card where it's a G5 versus a P5, and it's just a normal pick, and then out of nowhere Blake's like, "Oh, trash take, horrible," and then spit out some random player who we haven't heard of, and he's usually kind of right, but it's always funny. This is why you tune into the weekend spread, because you learn about college football. They ain't telling you this on ESPN. They don't know who this man is, but you know who does? The captain.
Yeah. So quick. I think it's my part. Quick programming note for those unaware. On the Schooner Pod, for our own, ease of everything, we do count a push as a win when it comes to gambling. That is not the case if you're actually putting money on the games, but just important note. So when you're looking at a line that's like 14 even, if that pushes, that's a win for the podcast. Here's my thing. Let's talk about tenure. A guy who has been at a program forever, a guy who's been in college since people who are no longer in college now were in college. I'm talking, of course, about one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in college football in the Pac-12 from like 2017 to like 2022, whatever the years were. I'm, of course, talking about DTR at UCLA. He has now left. UCLA opening their season, week 1, against Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina traveling all the way to San Diego, I believe, is where UCLA is. I don't think that Coastal Carolina has. I've been a long-time hater of Coastal Carolina. A couple of years ago, people were really hyping up Coastal Carolina, gassing them up, so to speak, as the Gen Zers will say. I've been waiting for years to hate on Coastal Carolina. And by waiting, I mean I've been actively hating on them. Give me UCLA -14.5. This one opened at 14, which I was liking a little bit more, but I got to take them on the wild card. We go on the live lines as of time of recording. I'm getting it off Caesars right now. We don't use DraftKings for reasons. I like UCLA minus 14.5 in this one. I think they have the weapons to get the points up. And with all that being said, right, Bobby touched on it earlier in the podcast. Jameson did this whole thing about, I don't want to pick these massive lines. I like to pick massive lines. Y'all never saw this one coming. Play the graphic, Bobby. We're doing it week one.
You never saw this coming. I summoned Pot of Greed.
We have a pot of greed pick.
We're playing Pot of Greed week one because we know what we need to do. It's going to be a win. It was going to be a win no matter when I played it, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to play it week one to spice it up. Y'all thought he was gone. Georgia's been distracting you for the past couple years. Y'all thought Saban was done. Saban is not done. What Nick Saban said in this offseason, we got too Bryce-centric last year. That's his exact quote. Think about this. It's a Heisman winning quarterback. What do we know about Nick Saban? He destroys people in the championship when he just has an absolute bum at the quarterback position. Like, what was, I don't even remember the guy's name, AJ McCarron, Tua Tagovailoa, bums. Give me, I don't even know who Bama's quarterback is this year, and that's how I know they're going to win the national championship. They've already talked about running the ball more. Couple that with the new clock rules. Bama's not in a situation where, we're going to backdoor cover because the new clock rules. They're just going to run the ball up people's throats, and it's going to work against everyone but Georgia. Georgia is going to be an absolute game this year, Georgia versus Bama. But I think Bama sweeps everybody. Give me the Crimson Tide. I'm all on the Crimson Tide. Minus 39 against the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. I don't even think that's an accredited school. I don't even think they're an FBS school. Give me the Tide to win that one big and make a statement and show people that they never left. They are still the top dogs.
Wow. A pot of greed week one. You only get one of those per season. So Tide going big on the Tide there early. I will say, and I know you
What was
didn't
the
ask
line
for
you got on that one, Ty?
minus 39.
I have minus 39 of 7:08 p.m. Pacific time Wednesday, according to C.
All right.
Here's my only thing. They have Texas next week. I feel like they pull off the gas pretty early.
I'd take the Tide minus 39 against Texas.
All right. Hell yeah, I love that.
I would, but I know they're going to be on the slate, so I don't have to worry about wild card in that one.
Did Blake just say Malort vet?
Yep. How confident you feeling, boy?
You're just trying to make things even because you have too many of them. All right. First of all, love the move to do pot of greed early. That was great. Introduced everyone to it. So I've been back and forth on my wild cards. So at first I thought this line looks pretty easy. Louisville minus 7.5 at Georgia Tech. Like Jeff Braun, Georgia Tech, scrappy dogs. But I know that hook's going to get me, so I'm out on that. Next, I looked at Old Dominion plus 16 at Virginia Tech. Old Dominion beat them last year at Old Dominion. Love my guy Hudson, but that's the thing with puppies is they eventually turn into big old dogs. And not only that, but Old Dominion just isn't the same team they were last year. So a little wary of that. I believe they even got one of the stars. Virginia Tech actually got one of the stars from Old Dominion on their team this year. So I'm a little wary of that. So instead, I'm going to go back to the well. As you know from earlier, I've been big on TCU. So it makes sense that I'm going to go with a team that plays at the TCU Stadium. I'm going with the North Texas Mean Green.
Oh my God.
Plus 7 against Cal at TDC or at the TCU Stadium. I'm loving this. I think Cal is a program that is completely listless. I think North Texas has been, kind of scrappy here and there. We've seen them go into Fayetteville, get a win. I'm kind of loving it. I'm in on the Mean Green. Plus 7. Put it down.
Do they still have that
Hey.
40-year-old quarterback, or is
No.
he gone?
No, they don't.
Oh,
No.
Unfortunately.
He finally graduated.
I know this because I looked into it for picking them week 1. I saw that line and I was like, ooh, my 32-year-old quarterback, let's go. But he is unfortunate. I think he's passed away of old age.
But okay, Bobby,
no.
the one thing you gotta Bobby, the only thing
Okay.
you gotta worry about with this game, I was all on board like throughout this entire summer, had this game circled. Then forget my boy Sam Jackson, TCU quarterback, third stringer last year. I think the second coming of Lamar Jackson. I was depressed when this guy transferred away from TCU. He's starting for Cal. He is dynamic. He is electric. He came in that final quarter against Colorado, and I was there. Oh, baby, it got me going. I wanted him to start this year. I love Chandler Morris. He's my guy, but Sam Jackson was my dude. I love that man, and he's starting for Cal this year. I think Cal's going to be a little bit better because of that. So, just Bobby, if this goes up in flames, just know it's because of him.
Well, I'm just happy. Look, it's testing the waters. Want to get a little spicy on my wild card. Wanted to get a little nuts out there. So yeah, I'm rolling with the mean green here. But we'll see if it goes sideways or not. I don't know. But wow, what an awesome week 1 slate. We went pretty long. We will maybe work to trim this down a little bit. 140 is a little longer than we normally do for these. But guys, I love our picks. I cannot wait to just dive into another season of college football with you all. Any final thoughts? Ty?
Y'all think Cal might have like Oppenheimer themed alts this year?
Oh God. Well, we did
When he talked, if you saw the movie,
Air
he
Force.
did at
Air
Cal.
Force.
No, that's a
Oh,
completely
God.
different.
I know.
I know. Hopefully not. I don't know. Anyways, that was week 1 of the weekend spread. Week 2 is going to be pretty fun. Very Big 12 heavy. I know every year we do non-conferences and then the rest of the Big 12 games. We have one non-conference next year or next week. It's Ole Miss and Tulane slated right now. It might change. And then the rest are Big 12s. So a monumental week for the Shield. I'm excited for that one, boys. We got some just absolutely class games. Texas, Alabama, of course. But you also got Baylor, Utah, Texas Tech, Oregon, Cincy, Pitt. Why did I say that in the same sentence as that? Oklahoma State is coming to your city, Ty. You got OSU, Arizona State. And then, of course, we have El Assico of Iowa State. So week 2, looking pretty fun as well. So make sure to tune in, check out our picks for that. But until then, for me, Jameson, Ty, and Bowden Blake, this has been the Weekend Spread. Thank y'all so much for listening. Make sure to sign up for selloutcrowd.com, launching this Friday. Have a great one, everyone. Good luck out there.